Financial Planner. Follow us on YouTube.
North Korea is a major conflict headed our way? Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we know that Mueller is investigating Paul Manafort. He's investigating Trump. We understand that he's looking into the financing of Trump. And it looks like Mueller might be touching upon something that might cause problems. Now, the Podesta group, which was co-founded by Hillary Clinton's former campaign chairman, John Podesta, and still run by his brother Tony Podesta, well, it looks like they might be subpoenaed. And what we're seeing is that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, issued subpoenas seeking testimony from executives who worked on a campaign organized by Paul Manafort, including the Podesta group. Now, this might cause some problems because if he starts digging around the Podesta group into the Podestas, well, they might find things that they don't want out there. So we're going to have to watch that and see where that goes and see how far they take it, which is very interesting at this point. Now, while Obama was president and he was letting all the immigrants in, what we are seeing is that he quietly closed certain cases for the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, and basically stopped about 200,000 of them from being deported. So he administratively closed their cases without action, and this move allowed tens of thousands of illegal immigrants free to roam America. And we can see right now that this is a problem, and they think this number might be even much, much higher. And what we're seeing, there was a study done by the Center for Immigration Studies, and the former immigration judge Andrew R. Arthur said that there are some 100,000 cases that were closed, but told that it might be as high as 200,000 or even higher than that. Now, the Trump administration, they are trying to reverse this practice, and they're letting the authorities close the cases and is working to reschedule them. So we can see right now that everything is trying to be reversed. They're trying to get back, trying to get these people back, and they're trying to look into, what all this is all about. And we can see why this was being done. Remember, bringing all these illegals in, they had plans. They had plans because the TPP was being pushed, and that was going to allow other countries to work here in the United States at the pay level that they were being paid in their country. If you brought in illegals, this would allow this. This would also blend the country in with all the illegals, just like they were doing out in Europe, because really what they wanted is they didn't want to have any division. They didn't want countries to have their own identity. They wanted everything blended into one. So we can see this is why that was being done. That was the globalist agenda. They were pushing that very, very hard. Now, North Korea, they fired a missile that flew over Japan and landed in waters off the northern region of Japan. And we can see right now the missile flew, it broke apart before it hit the water, and they're saying this is a huge problem. Now, of course, what we're seeing right now is Japan, South Korea, they've requested an emergency session of the UN Security Council. We see that the drills that are going on, they are provoking still North Korea, and we can see that most likely, North Korea fired this missile because we have all these drills going on right now, military drills with South Korea, the United States, and they did this to say, listen, we have the ability to fire a missile, even though it broke up and stuff. They were trying to show that they have the ability to do this. And right now, Trump is saying that all options are on the table. Now, he said something like this before. This is nothing new. We see Nikki Haley is out there, and she is saying that, something needs to be done. This is absolutely unacceptable, irresponsible, and the Security Council now needs to take serious action. Now, of course, she's talking about an invasion into North Korea. She doesn't want sanctions. She doesn't want talk. She doesn't want anything like that. And again, all options are on the table. Now, are we going to war with North Korea? Are we going to have this major conflict with North Korea? At this point, I don't think so as of yet, because all they did was fire a missile. And they're saying that, oh, it came very close to Japan. It's very scary. If North Korea was actually going to hit something, this would be a complete disaster for North Korea. Now, of course, the corporate media plays it up. They make it seem like, oh my God, it almost hit the island and it could have been a disaster. And they're really pushing this idea because what they really want to do is they want action right now. They want to go into North Korea. Now, this doesn't mean that the cabal will not try to push an event. Now, since North Korea showed that they have the ability to fire a missile, at Japan, and they're going to use that distance, they can say, well, they're going to fire maybe another missile and try to hit some other island. This is why they were bringing up Guam at the time. But at that point, they really didn't have a missile that was really going to reach that island. Most likely it probably would have broken up before it even reached it. But now I think they're trying to make the case that, yes, they have the ability to do this, and they will do this. So we can see what is happening right now. They're trying to push this as hard as they possibly can, and we're going to have to watch this very carefully because, as we know, the cabal is not giving up. They want a war, and they're pushing their agenda very, very hard right now. We see that the U.S., they've conducted a successful field test of a new nuclear bomb. 2 B-61-12 gravity bombs without nuclear warheads. They were dropped from F-15 fighter jets on August 8th in a test range in Nevada. They were designed to test the non-nuclear functions of the aircraft, and these tests are part of a series of more tests over the next 3 years to qualify the B-61-12 for service. Now, the first flight test, that was made back in March, and basically it qualified to do more tests. This is why we're seeing them happen. And we see right now that once all these tests are done, certain countries throughout Europe are going to receive this. Now, they're expected to have this to happen in 2020. And here are some of the European countries that are expecting to receive this precision-guided thermonuclear bomb. It's Belgium, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and it was supposed to be Turkey, but again, Washington and Ankara, well, there's a deterioration in relationship between the two, so this might not happen. Out in Iraq, we can see the Iraq Army and the Popular Mobilization Units. They've been rapidly advancing in the Tal Afar countryside, and it looks like they are very close to liberating the entire Tal Afar area in the northern part of Iraq, and we can see right now that they're removing the Islamic State, and the Iraqi army is really pushing to remove and get rid of all the terrorists, just like Syria and Russia, where they're pushing to remove and get rid of all the terrorists. And before you know it, there's going to be no terrorists whatsoever in any of these countries, and it means that the United States, well, it could withdraw all its forces. Now, we know that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, he met with Putin last week, and the two met in the Black Sea resort town of Sochi on August 23rd, and they discussed all different things. Now, there was a report that came out that Netanyahu on the trip threatened to assassinate Syrian President Assad by bombing his palace in Damascus. And he's saying that Israel will seek to derail the U.S.-Russia brokered de-escalation deal reached in Astana earlier this summer. And we can see that Israel, the coalition forces, the intelligence agencies behind all this, they're getting very nervous because what's happening here is that the U.S., Russia right now, Iran, they are removing the terrorist groups. And as more and more of these terrorist groups are pushed out of the country, well, Israel will not be able to bomb inside of Syria. I mean, yesterday we reported that they flew unmanned drones into there and they were shot out of the sky. I don't think at this point they're going to fly any jets into Syria because, as we know, Syria and Russia, they joined defenses and they will shoot down any plane. They already gave a warning. Now, of course, Netanyahu was out there saying that, listen, if this continues, Iran, well, they plan to stay in Syria for the long term. Well, so does Russia. And the reason for this is to keep the paid mercenaries out of the country. And Assad is going to allow them to stay there. Now, the cabal, they don't like this. They don't want Russia, Iran in this region because it screws up their plan. And their agenda is to get Syria to maintain control of the Middle Eastern countries. It's to get into Iran eventually. And all of this is starting to fall apart. So what we're seeing right now is that the cabal is getting very desperate. Because to threaten, to hit a presidential palace, I mean, that is desperation. And this is why when we look at North Korea, we have to look at this and say, well, what is their next move? What are they going to do? Because we can see right now, North Korea is not going to stop developing their missile systems. They're not going to stop developing their nuclear programs. As long as the U.S. and South Korea and Japan, they continually have these drills, well, they're going to continually push their programs. And China and Russia, they understand this. This is why they're trying to get both sides together. But at this point, it doesn't seem like it's working. Because certain individuals, certain factions don't want this to happen. But I'm wondering, as Trump keeps saying, all options are on the table, he's not really taking any type of action. Is he taking the long game? Is he allowing North Korea to develop the missile systems? Is he allowing them to develop their nuclear program? So the cabal right now can't get into North Korea. Look what he did in Syria. I'm not saying he's perfect, but there are certain things that he can do, and other areas where it looks like he's controlled by certain individuals where he does what they say, so to keep everything on an even playing field. And it's a huge balancing act. And I'm not saying that he's not compromised. He could be. But we're looking at all these different actions. And of course, we know that there's soldiers going to Afghanistan. But in Syria, he removed the funding for the moderate rebels. They're actually going after the terrorists. And they've been working on peace deals with Russia and Syria. And we have to look at the situation in North Korea because, again, let's see what happens with the UN Security Council, because once again, if China and Russia step in and they block the United States, which they did before, we know at this point that the United States is not going to make a move. They're not going to push an agenda because more sanctions are going to do absolutely nothing. It's not going to help the situation. It's not going to make North Korea bend a knee. It just won't happen because we've seen from the past, you can place sanctions on every single country. It doesn't mean they're going to do what you want. I mean, look at Cuba, look at Syria, look at Iran. They've never stopped making deals with other countries. They traded, they bartered. They survived all this time without the U.S. dollar. Now, something very interesting, and this is coming from the Telegram founder. His name is Pavel Durov, and he's the founder of Telegram messaging. And he said something very interesting about cryptocurrency, because we know right now that the economy is breaking apart and falling apart, and we're going to be going into a new system. And we talked a lot about cryptocurrencies, how the people can take back the system. And what he said is the following. He's saying that the cryptocurrencies, something like Bitcoin, that the world may finally have a chance to ditch U.S. dominance thanks to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. For the first time in 70 years, the global financial system has an opportunity to get rid of the U.S. hegemony, which has imposed its national currency upon the whole world as a reserve currency. And we can see right now, he's saying that, yes, this allows other countries to work with many countries, bypassing the dollar completely. And he's saying that there will be no need to use the dollar. And this is what we've been talking about all along. As the economy breaks apart, as the system falls apart from all of this debt and everything the central bankers have done, we will have a chance to get off of the dollar, to get away from the central banks, to go on a system that is operated separate and apart from the central banking system. Now, of course, we can't use the system that they're creating. We have to use the decentralized system, and the banks, the central banks, can have no part of this. Actually, at this point, we won't even need banks. And he is also looking at this saying, yes, this will help the world, because the smaller countries, guess what? They can take their dollars, put them into Bitcoin, put them into other cryptocurrencies, and use those currencies to exchange and trade and to do business. Maybe to purchase oil. So we can see right now there is some type of thought process that is going on amongst the world where they're saying, you know something? Maybe we can use cryptocurrency. Maybe we can get away from the dollar. Maybe we can bypass it altogether. And this would be an easy way for the world to do this. And we can see that cryptocurrency, it's making huge strides. Is it big enough? Is it robust enough right now? No. I mean, we're going to go through many, many different versions. A lot of people don't even know about it. But this is like the beginning stages of the internet. Not many people knew about it. A lot of people were still on, bulletin boards. Then Prodigy came along. Then AOL came along. People were dialing into the internet. And yes, it was slow. You didn't have that many sites to go to. There was really no Google. It was Yahoo. Google was like in the background helping Yahoo. That was all done by hand, by people entering their domain into the directory of Yahoo. But look over the many, many years how things have actually changed. The same thing's gonna happen in the crypto market. And we can see already those people who are on the cutting edge of developing things, they're looking at this and saying, yes, this is the direction we are going in. And we can see already this would be a fantastic direction to get rid of the central banks, because we can bypass them completely.